Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, committee. I'll start by saying I'm a proud graduate of the University of Georgia. Go Dogs. And it was a hard day when I had to take that job at Florida. But
Thank you.
but
That's on the record.
They pay the bills. So I don't know if my slides are able to be shown.
We had them loaded. We practiced yesterday, I promise.
I am well, as of yesterday, I was just promoted to University Distinguished Professor at the University of Florida. I serve as the eminent Frank A. Duckworth Eminent Scholar Chair, Associate Dean for Faculty Development, and Director of our University of Florida Center for Translational Sciences Institute Translational Drug Development course. So my research is in basic science primarily, and moving drugs into the marketplace. We do drug discovery and drug development. I also previously served as the American Association of Pharmaceutical Scientists president in 2017 and 2018. I'll address the funding situation up front. We've received well over $100 million in federal taxpayer dollars for funding our research. We've received close to $1 million in private donations from Kratom companies, individuals that were supporting our work. Those donations have gone into the University of Florida Foundation and unrestricted access funds for me to control. The donors have no control over or say so of how those funds are utilized. So I want you to realize that there's no influence from those donors. I greatly appreciated and they allow us to do more science than we can. So I want to go back a couple steps and talk about where this came from. This is traditional use in Southeast Asia. This is a tree, and this is leaves that are picked off of a tree in Malaysia and Thailand. In Malaysia, they make a decoction or a tea from the leaves, freshly picked. In Thailand, they actually chew the leaves, similar to like what we would hear about coca leaf chewers in South America. Now, the leaf material itself has been used for hundreds of years in Southeast Asia with no issues of harm or problems, so to speak. Most of the material that comes into the United States actually gets imported from Indonesia, not from Malaysia and Thailand, but Indonesia is just a little further south. Same kind of environment, same things like that. The material itself, kratom, is illegal for sale in Malaysia, but you can see at the bottom right hand of that, at that picture there, that's a roadside stand out in rural Malaysia. You can buy this stuff very easily anywhere, and there's no real enforcement on the selling of it being prohibited. Thailand actually outlawed kratom in the 1940s because it was cutting into their opium tax revenue. A few years ago, they actually made it legal again in Thailand, and they have a thriving controlled business in Thailand. So these products are still being used over there. And I want to talk about what the difference is in the United States. And we've already heard a little bit of this, but the biggest difference is that we have things other than leaf. Okay, leaf is all that's used in Southeast Asia, although they're starting now to sell extracts there as well. But the way that I like to equate this is the way that we treat alcohol in this country. So alcohol, we all know, is divided into many categories. We have your light beers and your seltzers. We have your craft beers. We have your wine. We have your fortified wines. We have your spirits. And then we have things like Bacardi 151 and Everclear 190 proof, right? We don't call all these things just alcohol. We specify those categories. Unfortunately, with kratom, it is all considered the same thing. And all of those products fall into I call sort of a garbage can description of Kratom. And the differentiation of these products is really the problem. So leaf products have been the most studied, particularly in humans, and I'll talk about that in just a moment. And then, as we do in America, we supersize things, and you've heard already about the extracts and the concentrates. And unfortunately, now these semi-synthetics, which aren't even any longer part of the plant. But I'll talk about that as well. We do think there's strong therapeutic potential. These are studies that are ongoing. We just had an investigational new drug application approved by the FDA to study mitragynine or mitragynine, the major alkaloid in the plant. That was after about 8 years of study with the National Institute on Drug Abuse and the National Center for Advancing Translational Sciences. In and all, that was about $80 million worth of taxpayer dollars that went into the development of this product. That product is going into human clinical trials very soon. I meet with National Institute on Drug Abuse officials next week to discuss that project. We do believe that it can be successfully used for opioid detoxification or as a medicated assisted therapy, very much like Suboxone or buprenorphine is used today. We also know that some polydrug users are reporting that Kratom reduces the intake of methamphetamine. There are grants funded from the National Institutes of Health to look at harm reduction in alcohol use disorder, psychostimulant use disorder, as well as opioid use disorder. So there's a lot of medical potential that's seen here. The other thing is that the lack of standardized products, which is many of what we're talking about today, has really delayed rigorous clinical evaluation of these products. And so this is very busy. I do have a copy of these slides for everyone that wants them. They can be made available. This is many of the alkaloids that are present. And the only reason that I put this up here, and you can't read a thing on there, but these are all the different proteins in the human body that this interacts with. It does not interact only with opioid receptors. It interacts with opioid receptors. It interacts with serotonin receptors, which are our mood elevation, where many of the antidepressant type actions of this plant come into being. It also interacts with adrenergic receptors. Adrenergic receptors are our fight or flight system that allow us to get energy. And those are the three main systems that this plant works on. All three of those systems are involved in pain transmission. And so we do not have a single drug approved in the United States that targets all three of those simultaneously. We do have some opioids that target the adrenergic system as well. But we don't have anything that is as unique as this is in terms of its potential properties. So I want to talk straight up to human trials, and the FDA has sponsored now 2 human clinical trials with Kratom leaf. The first, and we were a collaborative team involved in those studies. The first one was what they call a SAD study. It's a single ascending dose trial. That manuscript actually is published now, and that study investigated a single ascending dose. So they start with a low dose, 1 gram of leaf material. A month later, they move to the next dose because they do all the safety reviews, all the reviews of blood samples, everything that was experienced by that individual before they pass safety to go to the next dose. So they went from 1 gram to 3 grams. The FDA was shocked that nothing happened at 3 grams. So they skipped the next dose and went to 8 grams, then 10 grams, and then 12 grams. They completed the full ascending dose trial. The end result was that there was no clinically significant adverse events that occurred in that trial. Yes, at the higher doses, 8, 10, and 12 grams, there was some nausea and vomiting that occurred in certain individuals that also occurred in the placebo group in that study. Now, there was one finding from that study that made it appear to have some opioid-like effects, and that was that the pupil size changed, but it changed only a fraction of an amount compared to what someone would be seeing if you're taking something like morphine. The next study that's underway at Baylor College of Medicine is the human abuse potential trial. So the FDA didn't think they would even get to the human abuse potential trial because they didn't think that they were going to show safety in the single ascending dose trial, which they did. Now we're moving into the human abuse potential trial that will have 3 doses of kratom over multiple time of exposure, and it will go up to 16 grams of leaf material. I want to just point out, these are in 500 milligram encapsulated powder doses, so 500 milligrams per capsule. Somebody that's going to be taking 16 grams is going to be taking 32 capsules within a 5-minute period. If that doesn't cause you some nausea and vomiting thinking about it, I can understand why. We will see at that higher dose, though, if we have any other toxicological or serious safety concerns, as that dose has not been studied in humans. There have been a couple of other studies in Canada that have been carried out on kratom and kratom extract. The extract papers have not been published, but some of the leaf material has been published, pretty much aligning and agreeing with the study that the FDA conducted. Coming back to what I said earlier, I think this is the key underlying thing, that not all kratom is equal. We published this paper to talk about the distinction between native leaf and extract products. And interestingly enough, this came out in October of 2023. In that time frame, the semi-synthetics or synthetic compounds started to emerge in the marketplace as well. We were not aware of those at that point. So there's kind of 2 faces of kratom as we see it up to the synthetics. And we'll talk about that much more in detail here in a second.
Dr. McCurdy.
Yep.
Just to give you a heads up, we got the presentation late yesterday.
Yep.
We'll have to speed it up and
Okay.
let the committee ask questions.
No problem. We got this you heard about 7-OH. It is a metabolite of michigan, the main product. Some of these are sold like Smurfs. They're all flavored tablets. You've heard all this before. I want to show you how exquisitely selective this is as an opioid. This is all the human drug targets, over 100 drug targets that have FDA approved drugs to them. You can see circled in red there, those are the opioid receptors. That's 7-hydroxy. It's incredibly selective for opioid receptors. This is the binding affinity. I want to talk about abuse potential studies. We did all the abuse potential studies in our laboratory and published those that were required for preclinical abuse related studies as described in guidance by DHHS or FDA. And most of our data went into the press conference data package that was presented by the FDA in July of 2025, where they recommended scheduling of this substance to the DEA. Yes, there's human abuse potential with this 7-OH. We've heard about it already alluded to. These are studies that you can read more detail. Does it cause respiratory depression? Yes. As an isolated semi-synthetic product, this causes respiratory depression. Interestingly enough, in that same study that we published, michigan, the major alkaloid in kratom, actually increases respiration. Also, we've seen cardiopulmonary arrest in a patient that was revived with naloxone following reported use of 7-hydroxy. And 7-OH should not even be considered a kratom product. And I understand that secret shopper paper was us too. So many of these compounds are being sold under the guise of being kratom products or kratom alkaloids or enhanced kratom alkaloids, but they are 7-OH or other synthetics. And we heard about pseudoindoxil, which actually doesn't exist in the plant at all. It is another fully synthetic compound. It is a metabolite in humans, but one of the latest fully synthetic compounds, which we're starting to see more and more post-mortem blood samples containing this substance, is called MGM-15. This is on the market in Florida like crazy right now. In fact, some of the death cases that we've seen in Florida are from this. That picture in the middle of this is how we received the product. We had to buy it with cryptocurrency. It came to us. This was when it first got introduced. That text that's really small on the left side was the packaging label that came with it. They said their product is so new, they have no labels yet. And it arrived in an empty jar like that, clear jar cotton balls on top of it. That was it. So these are the things that are really scary to me and really concerning to me, because these synthetics are far from kratom. They are derived from kratom, but they are not kratom at all. So there's a lot of questions that remain, but regulation is key, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Dr. McCurdy. Two things for you. I'll let Representative ask a question in just a second, Ridley. First is, everybody's got a copy of your PowerPoint. We gave everybody a copy here. But second, too, as we go through this process, you're definitely more than welcome to contact Deborah in my office or me, and we'll get you any stuff you want to send us or give us. Please, we'll forward it right away. So
Okay.
no worries about that.
Thank you.
And then Jordan Ridley, Representative.
During your presentation, you said there was a human abuse potential trial at Baylor with the FDA, currently going on. Do you have a target date for when that's going to be over?
No.
Okay,
It's just getting started. In fact, we're just waiting for the final approval from the Institutional Review Board so that we can start recruiting subjects. So it's really just getting started.
Okay.
It'll be at least another year.
Okay, thank you. And Chairman Corbett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dr. McCurdy, you talk about Florida and what they have done, what laws they have passed. Now, they have not banned kratom. What laws? Can you speak to that?
Correct. I've been involved in a lot of discussions with Senator Jay Collins, who's now Lieutenant Governor of Florida. He has put together quite a team to put regulation around this. A lot of that was developed alongside the American Kratom Association and the Global Kratom Coalition, with inputs from them on regulation. He has Florida safety first for Floridians, just like you all have Georgia safety first for all Georgians. The law that was put into place there is a Consumer Protection Act, very similar to what's already in place, I think, in Georgia, that limits age, certain packaging has to be there, etc. I'm not fully versed on the entirety of what that is, because every session it seems to come back up for a little more refinement. But what Florida has done is put an emergency ban on these synthetic products.
Thank you. And I guess one final question for me is when I talked to Dr. Grummins and one of your colleagues, and we talked on the phone, he had permission to talk and emailed each other. And one of the questions I asked was about where to sell the product at. And he seemed to be more apt to where at least that person, let's say my neighbor, can go to the pharmacist or someplace if they don't see their doctor. Is it safe? Like Joe could be on blood pressure medicine, so he doesn't need to take that. In your eyes as a researcher, do you have an opinion yet? And you may not, of the way we have the law now. Is it fully safe like in a convenience store type situation, or is it better where they can ask a professional and not have a prescription, but just ask a professional, hey, these are my meds. Am I safe to take this product?
So I didn't mention my original training and licensure is as a pharmacist. So I actually wear that hat too. And I am fully supportive of much more information around these products when they're sold. And that should be done by someone who's educated to a point. At least they don't necessarily have to be a medical professional. In my ideal world, you would put this into a dispensary just like you do cannabis. And that way the material is authenticated. We know the sources, that material has been tested, verified to be what it says to be on the label. But I think that's probably a heavy lift. Obviously, the biggest problem with the legitimacy of these products at all is where they're available. I mean, you can't go into Walmart and buy it. You can't buy it on Amazon, but you can certainly buy it at the convenience store. Many of the retailers or vendors, manufacturers have their own websites that you can buy it from. But again, those tend to have a lot more education because it's in a website. But to the point of the earlier speaker, a lot of people aren't reading all the information that's there either.
Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you.